Warning! The following contains nothing but spoilers to Rise from the Ashes and Phoenix Wright, The Truth Reborn. Lana Skye and Damon Gant were a renowned crime-solving duo until the day Lana's younger sister was almost murdered by a serial killer. This killer was found guilty of murder, and Lana was promoted to chief prosecutor, but she had become cold and distant, especially to those involved in the case. 2 years later, Lana has been accused of murder, and her younger sister Emma Skye begs Phoenix Wright to defend her in court. The original Phoenix Wright game was released in Japan on the Game Boy Advance in 2001. Eventually, it was remade for the Nintendo DS and given an international release. As a bonus, the game was given a fifth case called Rise from the Ashes, which would take place 2 months after Miles Edgeworth was declared not guilty and show us why he decided to leave the prosecutor's office, only to return at the end of Justice for All. I said in my first review that Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney was a satire of the Japanese court system. Rise from the Ashes, however, goes one step further and satirizes the entire police department. Here we have the laughably incompetent Officer Meekins, a literal cowboy cop Jake Marshall who seems to be stuck in the 19th century, and Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye admitting to an outraged courtroom that falsified evidence was used to convict an innocent man. In addition to a less than flattering portrayal of the police department, this case also deals with an extremely controversial subject. Your client has already confessed her crime. In Japan, a confession by the defendant is considered the ultimate form of evidence. As a result, coerced confessions are a serious problem. An article on the BBC News website tells the story of Shoji Sakurai, who spent 29 years in jail after confessing to a robbery that he didn't commit. It took him another 15 years to win a not guilty verdict at his retrial in 2012. Your client, Lana Skye, is meant to represent exactly this. Her confession is so deliberate and so deadpan that you can tell she's insincere, and the whole case involves finding out why. This was a very clever way for the developers to increase the game's difficulty, whilst at the same time bringing about relevant social issues. And to make things even more ridiculously stacked against you, the woman who witnessed the crime is a former detective and interrogation expert who can switch between good cop and bad cop with a flick of her hair. Her cross-examination is widely considered the hardest in the entire franchise, although not for the best of reasons. Rise from the Ashes also wins the award for longest single case. There's no overarching plot to fall back on, so investigation sequences are long in order to develop 6 entirely new characters. Fortunately, Lana's sister Emma is here to assist you and show off the power of the DS touchscreen. Emma Skye is passionate about forensic science, and as a result, you, the player, get to embark on a variety of mini-games such as closely examining objects, fixing a jar, spraying for bloodstain remnants, and blowing into your DS to uncover fingerprints. At first, it really bothered me that Emma was basically a carbon copy of Maya. Fortunately, her character is much more involved in the plot. During the final day of trial, Emma is brought to the witness stand to recall the horrifying events she saw 2 years ago. It proceeds as normal until this happens. This is the first time we've seen Lana show emotion, and all of a sudden, everything falls into place. Lana has been cold and distant because it was her sister Emma, and not the serial killer, who unknowingly killed the prosecutor 2 years ago. Lana has been covering this up the whole time with the help of a certain individual who apparently has been blackmailing her ever since. Even now, this person is still forcing Lana to confess to a crime she didn't commit. After some encouragement, she reluctantly testifies and provides a photo of the true crime scene, thus allowing Phoenix and Miles to prove that Lana had been manipulated from the very start by Chief of Police Damon Gant. Together, they engage in one of the most exciting boss fights in the entire series. Damon Gant uses every advantage he has, and only by working together can they save both Lana, Emma, and even themselves. As far as Ace Attorney stories are concerned, this one is definitely up there. It takes a while for the plot to get going, but once it does, it's well worth it. And now it's time for a question that's been on my mind for quite some time. Could video games make good musicals? The reason I asked this question is because in 2009, Rise from the Ashes was adapted into a musical called Phoenix Wright, The Truth Reborn by an all-women's theater troupe in Japan. Now, I've seen quite a few musicals in my life, and when I watched this performance, I was quite surprised with how well they captured the essence of the game. There are a few differences. For example, the defendant is not Lana Skye, nor is she a chief prosecutor. Instead, her name is Leona Clyde, and she's Phoenix Wright's former lover.
Phoenix Wright 弁護士、お久しぶりです。いや、久しぶり。
Other than that, she fulfills the same role, a woman accused of murder who has already confessed her crime.
君の無実を立証させてくれ。うねぼれないで。私は罪を認めているのです。
Remember that scene I mentioned in Rise from the Ashes where Lana begs Phoenix to stop unraveling the truth? Suddenly it carries a lot more emotional weight. Another big change is Miles Edgeworth. The musical follows his character arc from the original game. As a result, the iconic scene in Turnabout Samurai where Miles has his change of heart is featured in the musical, right after Leona fires Phoenix as her lawyer.
それでは審議を終了し、評議に移ります。また、お待ちいただこう裁判長。
Unfortunately, not all the changes are for the better. Maya remains Phoenix's assistant, thus Emma's role isn't nearly as impactful as it was, and Damon Gant, the manipulative chief of police mastermind behind the murder, was replaced with a totally obviously the bad guy governor who just wants to secure his election. The showdown with him is nowhere near as intense as it was with Damon Gant in the game, but aside from that, the musical was both a faithful and successful adaptation of the video game. This is important, because although I have high hopes for the upcoming Ratchet & Clank film, the track record for video game adaptations has been pretty bad. I think a big problem, aside from gross incompetence, is that a lot of video game elements are tough to translate into cinema. Take the codec conversations from Metal Gear Solid. These are a hallmark of the series as they provide a break from the action and allow for character development that would otherwise not be possible in a video game about a lone guy infiltrating a terrorist base.
Come on, Colonel. Why don't you stop playing dumb?
It would take a very talented director to adapt these codec conversations into film, but if our goal is to make Metal Gear Solid the musical, then suddenly all you need is two spotlights shining down on two actors, each facing the audience, and the willing suspension of disbelief will take care of the rest. Not only that, but even the classic fourth wall breaks could be much more easily done on a stage.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
When I watched Phoenix Wright: The Truth Reborn, I was surprised by how well some of the more gamey aspects actually worked.
携帯電話だ。もしもし、今
では証人、その時のことを証言してください。うちはスクープに命かけてんねん。頭部を打ちつけた。逃走した連続殺人犯は
気を失っているモニカのそばで胸に鋭い諸刃のナイフを刺され死んでいました。
I believe that we should be making video game musical adaptations much more often. Now, there are plenty of challenges to overcome, but even high fantasy epics are totally feasible. I know this because I've personally seen a musical adaptation of Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials trilogy. Given enough talent, creative direction, and financial support, I have no doubt that video game stories could end up on Broadway. In fact, if this channel reaches 1 million subscribers, I will personally make this happen. And that's all for my analysis. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below.